Self-Talk. My name is William Neal, and I'm your host. As always, I will attempt to demonstrate here tonight some techniques in the form of short sentences, which we call axioms, which when consistently applied will allow you to start controlling your distressing and troubling and even painful emotions. With the consistent application of these techniques, you will be able to diminish anxiety, stop panic attacks in an instant, and take control of your anger, which may be rampant out of bounds. You may be saying things and hurting people's feelings that you don't intend to because you have angry outbursts. Well, these axioms will allow you to take control of your anger and make your external reality fall in line with that internal image you have of yourself as a mature and intelligent individual. Alright, let's get right into tonight's lesson. This is the how-to show, and we not only suggest to you how to calm and control your troubling emotions, painful emotions even, we demonstrate how. Our example tonight is from the Recovery International Forum, and this is lowselfhelpsystems.org//forums. You can go there and read examples of these types on any human activity that a person can engage in and get the kind of suggestions and help that I provide here from week to week. The author is Brooke. The subject is facing a fear, and this was posted on the 20th. A friend of mine asked me to come and visit her for a couple of days, which I would like to do. It would get me away from a temper-producing situation. And that's one of our axioms, which is to remove ourselves from a temper-inducing situation. So we just remove ourselves. Instead of releasing an angry outburst, we control and restrain our impulses to reply in anger, and we remove ourselves from the situation. We leave the room or we leave the house, we go for a walk, if that is all possible. The drive is an hour away. When I think about the drive, I get worked up. And the next step is the symptoms. Symptoms: I have insecure thoughts of driving there by myself. I have thoughts of getting symptoms while I'm driving. Now, these are symptoms of distressing and troubling emotions. And now she shines a spotlight on that. She looks at the emotions that are distressing her and see which axioms she can apply to diminish the distressing emotions. And that's another axiom. We've had these symptoms many times before in the past, and we lived through it. It wasn't harmful. So we know from experience, we only need to remind ourselves that our symptoms are distressing and not dangerous. And this is considering that you've been to a general practitioner or your doctor and you have a diagnosis of stress and or nervousness, and you do not in fact have a physical cause that is evoking your symptoms. So we want to err on the side of health. We want to make sure that we're not having a heart attack. We're simply having palpitations caused by nervous symptoms and or stress-related symptoms. So her spotting, she analyzes, I understood, I realized, another way of looking at it. I spot, I can change an insecure thought to a secure thought. Replace the insecure thoughts that are working us up and providing the distressing symptoms. The primary axiom: a thought produced it and a thought can drop it. Any emotion that I'm having is produced by a thought. You have the thought first, then you have the emotion. This is different in a startle where you may be walking down the road or the street and all of a sudden a dog jumps up the fence and barks. Now it's a startle. I have the fear first, and then I have the thought. As I realize, well, it isn't a big German Shepherd or a Doberman, it's a tiny little terrier. Now, first I had the fear, Now, as I realize objectively the situation is simply a terrier, a thought produced it, a thought can drop it. There's the thought that drops it. I no longer have to be afraid. It was a harmless, small dog protecting his territory. A thought produced it, a thought can drop it. She says here, a fear is a belief, and beliefs can be changed. She actually says beliefs are meant to be changed. But more accurately, our axiom is, fear is a belief, and beliefs can be changed. So we don't know if it's necessary to change all beliefs. That's situational. She goes on and says, we do things in order to get better. We don't wait to get better in order to do things. And just last but not least, she says, do the thing you fear and hate to do. And our axiom says, do the thing you fear and dread to do, and the death of that fear is certain. That's a little something I've added on to it. Because each time we engage in doing that thing we fear and dread to do, we desensitize ourselves little by little each time until eventually we no longer fear and dread that thing that we previously feared and dreaded to do. Okay, now we have some posts on this example. And Thursday 49 checks in and says, nervous fear is the fear of discomfort. Nervous fear and stress-related fears are fears of discomfort. Think about that. Review your experience and see if this isn't in fact true. Accept or reject possible sabotage of mental health through imagination on fire. And if you've followed the program for some time, you know that when we have our imagination on fire, we need to, at the very least, exchange insecure thoughts that are causing the fiery imagination, the fear, the apprehension. We need to exchange those insecure producing thoughts for secure thoughts that will inspire a feeling of security, confidence, and competence, and will diminish the fear. In fact, eradicate it. A thought produced it again, and a thought can drop it. So she is suggesting sabotage here because she did not immediately think of exchanging the insecure thoughts for secure thoughts. There's no time limit on using these axioms. Whenever they occur is fine. But we should remember them sooner rather than later, so we don't have to spend hours and or days or weeks suffering symptoms needlessly when we have axioms that will dispel them in a thrice. She says, when we feel our worst and try our hardest, we make our greatest gain. The writer may choose to anticipate securely or not at all. That's one of Dr. Lowe's main axioms. If we're, as human beings, we will anticipate future events, but we should anticipate with a feeling of security, not continue to engage in anticipating fearfully or apprehensively. Again, exchange insecure thoughts for secure thoughts. And going back to the previous axiom, when we feel our worst and try our hardest, we make our greatest gains. Also, we don't have to act the way we feel, and we can function in spite of the way we feel. Two additional axioms touching on doing things in spite of the way we're feeling, and do things in order to feel better. Don't wait to feel better before you do something. You'll be waiting and waiting and waiting, and the symptoms will continue and continue and continue. So we need to do something to diminish and dispel those distressing symptoms. A self-endorsed person is a secure person. When we endorse ourselves for the effort that we're making, we will feel secure. Let's take the act of driving. That is an example that Dr. Lowe's provided. back in the days when we had a clutch, we had to manipulate the clutch and change gears manually, and we engaged in hundreds of actions while driving even a short distance. The more secure we felt, the more confidence we had in our ability to shift and use the clutch and steer, the more securely we felt. So we feel secure because we approve of ourselves, we approve of our ability to drive. This approval, this self-approval, which is self-endorsement, A, giving myself an E for effort, or an A, attaboy, way to go, or if you're a female, attagirl. Self-approved person feels secure. Self-endorsed person feels secure. The more we endorse ourselves, the more we approve of ourselves, the more secure we will feel and are confident. And continuing on, we learn to self-endorse for our efforts and not for the successes only. In other words, we endorse for the effort. We approve of ourselves for the effort, not just for the outcome. And if the outcome is in fact failure, we still endorse ourselves, approve of ourselves for the effort. The effort is everything. The outcome will be what we want it to be if we continue to endorse ourselves and try, fail, succeed. It is inevitable, but we must apply the method and the axioms consistently. Apprentice checks in on this example and says, work was self-led and not symptom-led. One of our axioms is we want to allow our intellect to guide us rather than having our emotions drive us, because when our imagination is on fire, when we are suffering temper, which has two visions, fear and or anger. If we're in extreme fear or extreme anger, the decisions that we make are likely to be inappropriate for the situation because they're based on extreme emotion. This is why people get angry and strike people or say things that they didn't mean to say. This is why fearful people also either they don't respond or they say something they didn't mean to say. Some fearful people will even strike out to mask their fear or to try to prove to other people that they're not afraid. Unfortunately, many murders have occurred during extreme fear or extreme anger. A person striking out in extreme fear to prove that they're not afraid, or because they felt disrespected. Now, those kind of decisions are an example of what I'm trying to say here. We want to become objective. So we want to restrain impulses to strike out or verbally assault. We want to become objective, use the logical portion of our brain by asking, for example, what axioms can I use? What is the meaning of this situation? Anger or fear is often an intellectual blindness to the other side of the story. So perhaps if I try to see things from the other person's point of view, I can become objective. And when I become objective, I will, in fact, be able to make decisions based on the realistic facts of the situation, the people, place, and or situation. So we want to become a realist, we want to become objective. Prentice says, feelings will rise and fall provided we do not attach danger to them. Feelings will rise and fall in and of themselves. And you might think about your daily routine, and one moment you're thinking of something and you're thinking about something you did before you came to work and you're proud of yourself. You're thinking about something you did last week and it makes you happy. You have another thought. So the feelings rise and fall. Our thoughts come and go. But the moment we attach danger to them, we become obsessed, preoccupied with that thing that threatens us, or we perceive as a threat. And we will focus on it to the exclusion of happy thoughts, joyous thoughts, confident thoughts, competent thoughts, thoughts of happiness. I think I've said that. We will focus on the thing that threatens us. And this becomes a preoccupation. If not interrupted, the fear will increase. It will become an obsession, compulsions. Many other fears and phobias can come to bear unless we interrupt this vicious cycle. Says Brooke was treating her mental health as a business and not a game. So she was working at it diligently and consistently. She wasn't playing. She was making a business of her mental health. And a princess says, knowledge teaches us what to do, but practice teaches us how to do it. So practice, practice, practice. This is a try, fail, try, succeed method. We get well by doing. Deciding, planning, and acting according to the realistic facts of the situation, and then carrying out those plans via our muscles, muscles of walking, doing, verbally is a muscular act. The larynx, the tongue, and are involved. And this is muscular control. Tuto checks in on this example. Brooke is practicing the Recovery International method with ruthless determination, and this is what we call, this is a positive comment, ruthless determination. This is not sinister or evil. Ruthless just means determined, you know, without failing, letting nothing interrupt. A ruthless determination. Brooke's choice of spots shows that although knowledge teaches you what to do, it is practice that teaches us how to do it. Practice is what Brooke has been doing. Patience, perseverance, and practice. Typically when we're suffering from stress, we'll try something once or twice, and if we don't get immediate results, we'll say, this doesn't work. Then we go into doom and gloom. Oh, nothing ever works for me, no matter what I do. And this escalates. We continue to beat ourselves up. Our internal dialogue is all self-accusation, self-blame, self-humiliation, and we're feeding this. And if you look at that, why wouldn't I feel hopeless, helpless, distressed if I'm accusing myself and blaming myself and telling myself that I'm not even up to par, nothing I do ever works, I'm hopeless, I'm helpless. It's interesting that we've been doing this for years. We don't realize, because we've become accustomed to it, it has a certain familiarity, we would be lost without it. And this is why Dr. Lowe says nervous or stress-related patients' favorite pastime is self-torture. And we've been, as I said, we've been practicing it and doing it so long, it's familiar. We don't realize the impact, the tremendous unhealthy impact that it is having on us. If somebody else said that in the external environment, said it to us, then we realize the impact that it has. We would have hurt feelings, or we would be angry, but when we're doing it to ourselves, we don't realize, we don't acknowledge, we don't see. We'll feel hurt and helpless, but we don't realize we're doing it to ourselves through a negative internal dialogue. So we need to stop the self-accusations, the self-put-down, the self-blame, and replace that with a vitalizing cycle by endorsing ourselves, approving of our action, endorsing ourselves for the effort, interrupting the vicious cycle. And if a thought, a negative thought should go in, nothing ever works for me, insecure thought, fearful thought, I need to replace that with a secure thought. There are many times, well, I've actually done this, I can remember that not only a week ago I was engaged in this very action, and it turned out very successful. Secure thought, interrupt that vicious cycle. See, when we endorse ourselves and feel approved, we have established a vitalizing cycle that energizes us and motivates us and make life worth living again. It says we bear discomfort in order to gain comfort. Comfort comes in, here's the axiom, comfort comes in direct proportion to the amount of discomfort we are willing to bear. Now, well, does that sound odd? But think about it. Anything that you learn to do, learn to ride a bicycle, learn to drive a car, learn to dribble a basketball, learn to jump rope, learn to play chess, or any one of various games that people engage in. Even tiddlywinks takes a little skill, flipping the buttons into a cup or whatever. When it's something fun, there's still discomfort attached to it. But when it's something fun, riding a bicycle, learning to drive a car, learning to jump rope, double dutch, do back handsprings, because it's fun, we will try and fail and try and fail and try and fail for hours, eventually succeeding and keeping at it until we succeed more than we fail. The same amount of discomfort that is attached to something that we're fearful about, or have apprehension about, or something that we don't like but we have to learn anyway. But when it's fun, we will bear that discomfort and not even consider it discomfort. We recognize it for what it is, a necessary part of the learning experience. Something not at all to be dreaded or feared. So, with that realization, we can approach any learning experience that way. And it is in fact true. There is discomfort attached to any learning experience. When another of our actions says, it's hard to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. This situation, looking at it objectively, is a situation where anyone would feel discomfort. So there's nothing wrong with me for feeling discomfort in a situation where anyone ordinarily would feel discomfort. Yes, when it's something that we enjoy, we just ignore the discomfort, go through the arduous learning process and learn and become confident and skillful. And we can apply it to that to things we have to learn that we're not necessarily enjoying. And we can learn to enjoy that by endorsing ourselves for the effort and approving of ourselves as we go through the various stages of learning. And it isn't how we feel, it's how we function. And another part of the action, we can function in spite of the way we are feeling. An example, there are many times we go to work, we don't feel all that good. Maybe we feel like we're coming down with a flu or a cold or something. But we go to work, and when we engage in the routine of our job and start focusing on getting things done as competently as we usually do, we're able to function quite well in spite of the way we're feeling. And we don't have to act the way we feel. So we don't groan and moan and seek to have attention, because if we do, we're indirectly telling ourselves that we can't handle this situation. I need sympathy, I need help. And this will work us up instead of working us down. See, we want to endorse for our efforts. We make the efforts and we wear the mask. We suffer in silence. And because every act of self-control increases our feelings of self-respect. And this works up our self-esteem and works down our feelings of low self-worth and low self-esteem. The will says yes, or the will says no. Well, ordinarily this is true. It's called the denying and affirming act function of the will. The will either says, yes, this action will be harmful, yes, this object is threatening and dangerous, this is a realistic danger, or it says no. It either affirms, yes, this is a real danger, or no, this is not a real danger. However, when we're suffering from stress or extreme emotion, fear, apprehension, insecure thoughts, and perhaps we don't have a coping strategy, or even if we have a coping method, such as the one I'm demonstrating here, we may temporarily forget because we get caught up in a fear or anxiety. Either way, the affirming or denying action of the will is interfered with by fear and or anger. So the will cannot perform its function and or duty. So this is why we seek to replace insecure thoughts with secure thoughts. Realize this is distressing but not dangerous. I've been through it 100 times, perhaps even 1,000 times in my lifetime. It always has a beginning and an end. I always come out on the other side. It is not harmful. As we become objective and start applying the axioms, I can function in spite of the way I feel. I don't have to act the way I feel. I don't wait to feel better in order to do something. I do something in order to feel better. This diminishes the fear. Now I become objective. I can look at the realistic facts of the situation and not my wild imaginings, and the decisions that I make from this aspect will be appropriate and conducive to solving whatever problem I have. At the very least, it will get rid of the distressing emotions, and I will be lucid, able to think more clearly. If it's a muscular act, I will be able to perform the muscular action more smoothly. Why? Because fear and or anger, if I try to make a movement based on muscular performance, the duality of my mind, well, I'm telling my muscles to do this, but I'm also, from my fear and anxiety, saying this is dangerous. The muscle is being hit with two conflicting thoughts. I will bungle and fumble or fail in the task. My thoughts will become confused, and I will not be able to think clearly. But the moment I relax and become objective, and I see the clock has caught us, well, I hope what I've presented on today's show you will find useful in your day-to-day life. Until next week, this is William Neal saying, have a great evening and a better tomorrow.